Yes.
So I love that. And the one thing that jumped out at me was controlled chaos. And there was a recent podcast with Michael Dell, and I don't know if you heard him, and he said, if there isn't a crisis, create one to ensure your team is reminded of their mission. And I thought of that when I was reading this and thinking, have companies created enough crisis around AI to get people motivated? Is there enough chaos around what's going on to remind people what's really important? What are we really trying to accomplish here with AI? What's your kind of thoughts on that?
So it goes back to John Cotter with change management, talking about the need for a burning platform for change. If you don't have the burning platform, it doesn't happen. What I've been seeing is companies getting a mandate, often from on high, and then using that as a mandate for change. But it's not just use AI. I mean, there's all sorts of those mandates. But there's a healthcare company we work with, for instance, that is looking at healthcare economics and saying we should expect that we're going to get a budget cut of maybe 25% in the coming 2 to 3 years because the current path is simply unsustainable. And we need to be ahead of that. We need to be prepared for how we're going to be able to cope in that sort of situation. Now, that's a negative way of framing it. There are also positive ways, right? Like HelloFresh, of we need to premiumize because we are super custom. So, how
Right.
can we do that and create a lot of differentiation through the data that we have? That's one of those big, hairy, audacious goals that is really exciting, I think, to the
Right.
organization. And you can do both, right? You can have the bold cost as well as the bold revenue mandates, but there does need to be a bold mandate. And it's not, let's use a technology mandate, it's a business objective
Yeah.
or set of business objectives. Then AI is part of the answer. It's probably not the whole answer, but it's part of it.
Yeah, I like that framing because I do think that starting with the business problem and what problem am I actually trying to solve here? For years, when we worked at Salesforce, we're a customer company. It's about the customer, it's about the customer data. But with all due respect to Salesforce, it was about a bunch of different clouds that really didn't connect it. And at the end of the day, you needed to build a whole bunch of customizations to really accomplish what you needed to accomplish. Right. And so it of course went leaps and bounds from, the former CRM systems of its days, right? And it did bring in a new set of technologies, but it really started as selling into the business. Hey, you don't need IT, you can just do this. And I was at Accenture at the time and I led the global deployment at Dell. And it was the first time where we connected to a customer master and IT became the center of that entire transformation for Dell with Salesforce. And Salesforce was like, oh, now I need IT involved if I want to go to the enterprise because sales doesn't know how to access the data and all the information. And so it was interesting because I don't know that it changed the relationship between IT and the business as AI will, but it was one of those first steps of, wait a minute, this is inherently different, guys. Yeah.